and they sought to dismantle the extradition case. His defence team argues the Swedish prosecutor doesn't have the right to issue a European arrest warrant. They're concerned the trial would be held in secret with no chance of open justice. They also call it an abuse of process because Assange has offered himself for questioning but was turned down. They also argue Assange is the victim of illegal, corrupt behaviour by the Swedish. Could lead to his deportation to the United States, where he could face the death penalty. The prosecution insists Assange did use violence in his sexual activities in Sweden and tried to play down fears that the case is a ruse to clear the way for an extradition to the United States. The defence team here have started to produce witnesses to try to undermine the extradition case against Julian Assange. Their first, a female retired Swedish judge who says she had more than 30 years' experience in criminal law. She said she regarded the prosecutor's evidence in Sweden against Assange as peculiar and malicious, and the prosecutor as having biased views against men. Yet when the prosecutor here tried to ask her questions, she suddenly found it very difficult to explain Swedish law in English, or even at times to understand some of the questions. Another witness suggested one of the alleged victims had changed her story.
That 48 hours after the crime, the alleged crime, she volunteered to become Julian Assange's personal press secretary. The story given to the police does not bring up those instances.
And Assange himself told the media he was feeling more confidence, and so did his supporters.
5.5 months, we have been in a condition where a black box has been applied to my life. And on the outside of that black box has been written the word rape. That box is now, thanks to an open court process, being opened. And I hope over the next day we will see that that box is in fact empty and has nothing to do with the words that are on the outside of it.
I think that some of the evidence came through, which is a very good news, that the truth is emerging.
The hearing is scheduled to end on Tuesday. There may or there may not be a final ruling on the extradition. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera in London.
Iran's been showing off some of its military technology. The Revolutionary Guard test-fired a supersonic ballistic missile on Monday. The military says the weapon's capable of hitting warships or other targets without being intercepted. Palestinian authorities have asked the UN's cultural body to put Bethlehem on a list of World Heritage Sites. The West Bank town houses the Church of the Nativity, believed to be the birthplace of Jesus Christ. Palestinian tourism minister Khulud Daibez says that the application to UNESCO is long overdue. The UN-backed tribunal investigating the killing of Lebanon's Prime Minister Rafik Hariri is hoping a trial could start later this year. The groundwork for future proceedings being laid at a special hearing in the Netherlands this week. Hariri was killed by a bomb blast in Beirut 6 years ago. From Leidschendam in the Netherlands, Barnaby Phillips reports.
All rise. The Special Tribunal for Lebanon is now in session.
An important moment at the Special Tribunal for Lebanon as it moves from investigation into the courtroom.
Today's proceedings show that Lebanon, a proud founding member of the United Nations, is set on a course for judicial accountability through the rule of law.
It was a massive explosion that killed Rafik Hariri and many others, and Lebanon is still feeling the tremors of that blast. It's widely suspected the tribunal will indict members of Hezbollah, which is not only a powerful political movement, but also a military one. Its leader, Hassan Nasrallah, says the tribunal is a tool of America and Israel. He says Hezbollah will cut off the hand of anyone who tries to arrest its members.
The trial itself is probably months away, but people in Lebanon are watching events here very closely. They know that decisions taken at this court will shake their country's stability to the core.
They spent the day in complex discussions on the definitions of terrorism, murder, conspiracy. But are these lawyers and judges really immune to all the political tensions?
They are aware of all these sentiments and the impact of what has happened in those days and what is at stake now. Yet they are professionals who do their job in an impartial, independent way.
But the wheels of justice turn slowly, and all the time tensions in Lebanon are bubbling away. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera, at the UN Tribunal for Lebanon in the Netherlands.
In an unprecedented move, Tunisia's parliament passed emergency powers for the interim president. Meanwhile, the main ruling party, the RCD, has been suspended from all political activity. Nazanin Mashiri reports.
Democracy Tunisian style. Protesters try to stop politicians entering parliament. They're activists and lawyers who suffered under Ben Ali. And now they want this institution dissolved and the old faces of the regime out.
These nominated member of parliament are part of this regime, and we do not like them, and we do not accept them.
And inside Tunisia's parliament, scenes this country could only have dreamt of. Opposition politicians vent their anger at the RCD. The former ruling party was suspended on Sunday, but their members of parliament have retained their seats for now at least. And there were more big changes. An emergency vote was passed which gives extra powers to the interim president. So crucially, an election date can now be decided. Tunisia's Prime Minister told me it's an important step.
We will be able to fulfill our responsibilities, engage in a democratic path, and ensure human rights and fundamental liberties, as well as move our country forward.
What the Prime Minister Mohamed Ghannouchi is trying to do is unite Parliament and also the country behind this interim government. He says it's the only way not only to solve the economic situation but also to bring back security to the streets. There's still frustration here. These protesters blame the police for the deaths of 3 demonstrators in the past few days. Weeks on from the Jasmine Revolution that brought about a dictator's downfall, violence and tension still remain. Nazanin Mashiri, Al Jazeera, Tunis.
France's foreign minister is facing calls to resign after taking a holiday in Tunisia in late December during the country's uprising. Michelle Alliot-Marie has said she regrets taking the holiday in December. She's also admitted to using a Tunisian businessman's private jet several times during her stay there, but she's refusing to step down. Residents of the English town of Northampton can sleep safer tonight after one of their own fought back against a group of attackers. When a gang armed with sledgehammers tried to rob this jeweller's, help was close at hand in the unlikely form of a grandmother. Armed with nothing more than her handbag, look at this. She confronted the men and forced some of them to flee. 4 of the 6 men have now been arrested, and the 70-plus super grand's been hailed as a handbag heroine. Aren't we all? You're watching the Al Jazeera News Hour. Still ahead, paying tribute to a journalist killed during clashes in Egypt. And carnival calamity. Plans for one of Brazil's biggest street parties goes up in smoke. That's coming up. Do stay with us.
On the next Riz Khan show, we discuss the fear of regional contagion as leaders in Syria, Jordan and Yemen make preemptive changes to avoid similar uprisings. Riz Khan, at this time on Al Jazeera.
We are peaceful people. The Egyptian people will be the ones who will make the change.
We are mobilizing tomorrow a mass protest from Tahrir Square.
If we decided to give in now, they will hunt us one by one. taken stolen goods, and he's now dumping them onto the world without any sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
Is the inside story. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Hello again. Let's recap our headlines this hour. Breakaway nation. Southern Sudanese choose to split from the north